My mother left me before I could even say her name. But before she walked away, my father sold the one thing keeping food on our table. And I didn't understand what that sacrifice meant until years later, when I saw him standing at my graduation in shoes that were barely holding together. My father never described that day as dramatic. He always said it was quiet, too quiet. He had been working deliveries all day, pedaling through traffic on a borrowed bicycle because he had sold his motorcycle weeks earlier. When he came home that evening, he expected noise, dinner smells, maybe an argument, anything normal. Instead, the apartment was silent. No lights on, no movement, just the sound of me crying from the crib. He found a letter on the table, short, rushed, written without emotion. It said she had loved someone else before their marriage, that she finally had her career and couldn't live a lie anymore. She thanked him for understanding and asked him to take care of the baby. That baby was me. He told me later his hands were shaking so badly he had to sit down. Not because she left, but because he suddenly understood there was no backup plan. No one else was coming. It was just him and a newborn in a city that didn't wait for anyone. He picked me up, held me against his chest, and made a decision that would define the rest of his life. He could have walked away. People would have understood. A single man with no money and no support. But he didn't. He stayed. He moved us to a cheaper neighborhood on the south side of Chicago. 1 bedroom, peeling paint, heater that barely worked, rent that still felt too high. He took a warehouse job in the mornings and delivery work at night, sometimes 3 shifts in a single day. Sleep became optional, comfort disappeared, but one thing never changed. Every night, no matter how exhausted he was, he came home, checked if I was breathing, kissed my forehead, and whispered the same promise: "Daddy's got you." I was too young to remember his fear, but I grew up inside the consequences of that choice. A life built on effort instead of ease, on showing up instead of giving up. And I didn't realize it then, but that quiet decision in a dark apartment was the moment my future was chosen. Growing up, I didn't think our life was sad. It was just normal to me. Sirens at night were background noise, secondhand clothes were expected, and weekends meant waiting for my father to come home early enough so we could eat together. I went everywhere with him because there was no one else. Warehouses that smelled like oil and dust, restaurants where he waited for delivery orders, streets that weren't kind to tired men pushing bicycles. People judged him openly. Some whispered that a child needed her mother. Others shook their heads and asked why he dragged a baby around while working. He never responded. He just tightened his grip on the handlebars and kept moving. As I got older, I started noticing the things he didn't want me to see. The way he skipped meals, the way he pushed food toward me and said he already ate, the way he counted bills at the kitchen table late at night, calculator clicking like it was arguing with him. His shoes bothered me the most. The soles were separating, the leather cracked, taped in places that barely held. One day I asked why he didn't buy new ones. He laughed softly and said, "These still got miles in 'em." I didn't understand then that every mile left in those shoes was a mile he was willing to walk so I wouldn't have to. School made the differences clearer. Other kids talked about vacations and parties. I stayed quiet. My celebrations were smaller. A slice of cheesecake split in half when I got good grades. My father clapping louder than anyone at school events, even when he came straight from work, exhaustion written all over his face. He never complained, not once, and that taught me something powerful. Love isn't loud. It doesn't announce itself. Sometimes it just shows up every day, even when it hurts, and stays when leaving would be easier. The day I graduated, the crowd was loud. Families hugging, cameras flashing, people celebrating futures that felt guaranteed. I searched for my father and found him standing off to the side, holding a small bouquet wrapped in plastic. His clothes simple, his posture tired. And when I hugged him, everything he had held in for years broke loose. Later, when the crowd thinned, I looked down and noticed his shoes, the same worn pair, barely holding together. And suddenly, every memory connected. Every skipped meal, every late night, every mile pedaled in heat and cold, all of it led to that moment. I realized my diploma wasn't just paper, it was built from his sacrifices. Years later, I bought him new shoes, strong soles, soft leather, something worthy of the miles he had walked. He smiled and thanked me, but barely wore them, said the old ones still worked. I knew the truth. He kept them because they were proof that staying matters, that love can survive abandonment, that one person choosing not to leave can change everything. People see success and assume it's talent or luck, but I know better. Success looks like a tired man in worn-out shoes who refused to quit. My life didn't begin with a mother who left, it began with a father who stayed, and every step I take forward still carries his footsteps behind me.